Hello, everyone. It is I, Ryan, also known as the Love Bat, and I am here with, shall we say, a only part-way sort of complete sort of video for Magic the Gathering Arena. I was doing a draft video, and while I was recording the actual draft portion, let's say that my computer was having some issues. I ended up crashing, and then the game crashed. I tried getting back in the game a couple minutes later. Then my entire computer ended up crashing and ended up restarting and rebooting and whatever on its own. So there were some issues. I think it might have had to do with my computer's RAM. I think maybe the RAM settings I have on my new computer, I had to make sure that they weren't dialed up so much to make sure that the computer's not unstable with performance. It was working fine for a couple days. Then today, when I was coincidentally trying to record this video, it ended up crashing, so I ended up losing the actual draft footage because while I was doing the deck cuts in my original recording, the computer ended up eventually just restarting and the recording was rendered basically unusable because of that. So unfortunately the draft portion is not here for this new format, and this new format is an interesting one. I was trying to look through the archetypes when going through this for this new sort of murder. How could you? Or it's murders at Karlov Manor is what I'm trying to say. It's a new format, and I was hoping to get out a video earlier today, or at least finish recording earlier today and do this draft video. But I'm here now, and you can kind of see that from what I have down here. I have sort of a red-black sort of deck. Red-black is based somewhat around artifacts and some kinds of recursion type effects. There's also some suspect type effects, which is like a new mechanic that when someone becomes a suspect, they gain menace, but they can't block, so they're good for attacking, not very good for blocking. So it's both Bane, it's both, a boon, as well as, bane of your existence, if you like, being able to block your opponent's aggressiveness. So there are some mechanics in this particular set of cards that are kind of two-pronged, or pros and cons type stuff. Some have like graveyard mechanics, as is common, like for green-black usually has something like that, and it's the same here. Red-black has somewhat of an aggressive low curve that way that you can go, lots of removal. This particular deck I drafted has plenty of removal in it. I have shock, I have a couple of murders, then I also have this Case of the Gorgon's Kiss that can function as removal that I got in this draft. And then you have combat tricks in this set, which seem a bit common, more common than usual. And then I might go ahead and keep the Shady Informant because there's also another mechanic called Disguise, which can help out your curve a little bit. So these can actually kind of be 3 drops with because you can play them as a 3-drop, and then for 4 mana on a future turn you can turn them face side up, and you can do that at instant speed. I guess Offender at Large can also kind of be a 3-drop. You're not going to be able to get them out for a while after that to turn them over. My first pick was black, and then the other competing cards were in white for the sort of 2 power or less deck archetype that goes in black-white. Lots of smaller creatures and token generation, and you could probably do some sacrifice synergies as well with lots of low power and toughness token generation. I think there's also some token generation in green that I might have seen during the draft that I just didn't pick because I wasn't having green as a main. I did make one mistake. I ended up accidentally taking a Shadowy Backstreet when I thought that was a red-black dual land, but I misread it. My mind was going colorblind blank when I selected this card. I did not actually mean to select this one. I meant to select red-black dual land, but I picked this one by accident. But it was a happy accident because there's one card that we ended up wheeling in the third pack, the Sanguine Savior, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, which can go pretty well in here because you can do the disguise for 3 mana. Then after that, you can use double black to go ahead and flip it over and turn it into a 2/1 flying lifelink creature, which is really good for winning the race against decks that are going to be aggressive against you. So, and then this is also good with all the sort of low curve creatures we have. We have lots of Gorehounds here. We have a Fester Leech, which can be interesting for the graveyard mechanics, and there's some cards that have that, like Gorgon's Kiss. Putting creatures into graveyards is something we're going to be able to do in this deck. And then Case of the Stashed Skeleton. You have cases, and then there's like a solve trigger, and if you meet the trigger, then you solve it, and you get the solved ability in the third sort of box there. So this one, you can sacrifice the case for 2 mana when you solve the case and meet that trigger, and then you can search your library for a card, which can be any card in this case, and then put it into your hand. So that's kind of cool. You can get removal spells if you desperately need it against the bomb creature. You can go ahead and get your own bomb card into your hand, so that way you can try and win the game right then and there. Very versatile card. Then there's cards like this, that another 2 power or less synergy that goes well in our particular deck, even if it's not black-white, because we have lots of low curve creatures here that have 2 power or less, as well as some other tokens that we can get that would have 2 power or less. And then we also have Surveil makes a reappearance here. I think it was in some of the previous sets. I missed some of the previous sets, probably the last 5 or 6 card sets for Magic the Gathering, at least the major ones, because I haven't done a draft video since the Phyrexian All Will Be One set. So I missed stuff like Khans of Tarkir, the Ixalan sets, the Lord of the Rings set, the Wilds of Eldraine set, things like that. I wasn't really able to get into them when they were out and new, but I'm here now, and I'm trying to improvise and make the best of my computer crashing here and giving the rundown of how I came to this draft, how I was trying to do it. And then I got this on the wheel. I didn't think that I would end up playing it, but we ended up getting one dual land where we could splash for this in like the late game without really needing to have any other green mana, because we have this, and then we also have the Case of the Stashed Skeleton that can go ahead and fish for this green mana if we need it to get Breakout to work in a certain situation. So it can be kind of like a 2-pronged sort of card there is another way to fix our mana if we need to for the green, and maybe the white if we desperately need the lifelink to win a race. If that's a top deck war, having lifelink can buy us some time to get more creatures out. And then we also have the suspect mechanic. We can do a little bit of that in this particular deck, but not too much. But yeah, that's kind of the rundown. I forget which card was my first pick. I think it might have been I'm trying to remember which one. I think it was one of our removal spells. Oh, it was the Deadly Complication. This was our pack 1 pick 1 efficient removal spell. Can either destroy a creature, or you can go ahead and make it a bit beefier, and in some cases there are some creatures that if you have a +1/+1 counter, you can sometimes get things. I forget if we have a creature in here that has gives value if a creature has a +1/+1 counter on it. I forget which, because I've been trying to get back in the video. I don't think we have it in this deck. I thought that we did. Maybe I was misremembering a different card. But then we also have some graveyard mechanics here. Macabre Reconstruction. We can attack in with one of our low curved creatures, and then like in the late game, and then we can get some cards back to our hand to try and give ourselves some more gas in the late game. So that's pretty cool there. We can kind of semi-sacrifice a creature, attack in, and then do stuff like that. And then it also goes pretty well with dual lock here, or the dual leech, sorry. The slimy dual leech. Very monstrous, weird mouths, but you kind of expect that from insects. But yeah, with this one, you can go ahead and give a creature Death Touch when they attack, so they can just freely attack in with them. And because they have Death Touch, they're forced to either trade with their own small creature, or they have to eventually put a bigger creature in there on the defense. And this can go ahead and get through that, as well as feeding some of our other cards, like Case of Gorgon's Kiss, put creatures in the graveyard. And then you can also do things like Macabre Reconstruction to get back things like the Unscrupulous Agent, to go ahead and get the opponent to exile more cards in their hand, get them to empty it so they don't have the same amount of cards to play as you. So it's an interesting deck. I'm not sure if it's any good or not. There were other, I think, probably more powerful directions that you can go, I would imagine. But this is the deck that we have, and it's a traditional draft, so it's a best of 3 with a sideboard. We don't have much of a sideboard here. We have not very much, I think. So we have to make some cuts as well. I think we'll go with... We'll cut one Repeat Offender. It is good with the Agency Coroner if you sacrifice it while it's a suspect. Because then you get 2 cards instead of 1. But it takes a long time to get that going, and at the end of the day we need some more power here. This can be, again, good sacrifice fodder that gets into the battlefield effect, which goes well with the graveyard recursion type cards. I like having 1-drops here because we really need to curve out in this deck to get things going, so I'm okay with having lots of 1-drops. I'm thinking that I might not Splash Breakout because, well, there's lots of creatures that we can get back with it. That would be great, I think, or that we can get with it. But it's not going to be good on our curve. It's going to be a late game card, and it's not going to be the thing that gets us over the top, I think. So I think we'll cut that, and we'll cut that. We'll have one more black because we have primarily black in this deck, and we have double black. We need black, double black for our splash for the Sanguine Savior for the disguise cost. So we definitely need more black than red in this deck. Red is mainly for our removal spells, and the Shady Informants could also use a little bit of red to make sure we can get them going. And I'm hoping that I haven't taken too long to look at these games, and if that is the case, that's kind of embarrassing because I had to be away from my computer for a while to troubleshoot, get my computer back up and running. Maybe 1 Gorehound we'll get rid of. Maybe 5 is too many. We still have 5 1-drop creatures here, and then we have the case that we can get out on turn 1. Well, I guess we don't really want to get this out on turn 1 because it's a removal spell, so maybe 5 is a more reasonable number of 1-drops to call it. That's good, but I'm not sure if we need it. I mean, it is a suspect that way, which again goes well with the Agency Coroner. Maybe the Stalker's a bit too slow. I mean, you can potentially disguise it turn 3, turn 4 play something else, then turn 5 get this out, which gets it out a bit faster. But that would work a lot better if we had like some ramp in this deck to get out on like turn 4 instead. Like this is a good combat trick plus a creature. Maybe the Shady Informant is better though to just deal damage in trade. We can have this on the sideboard if we feel like we need it to trade up against 3 toughness creatures and things like that with our 1/1s. How many creatures do I have? I have a good number of creatures, and a couple of these cases create creatures as well, so we have quite a high creature count. Maybe Case of the Crimson Pulse isn't what we're looking for here. It does put things into the graveyard for like Case of the Gorgon's Kiss, which is good. Maybe Alley Assistant isn't really what we're looking for. It's too much of a late game play for the disguise value. And it's just a 3/3 for 3 mana in our deck most of the time. Final cut. What are we gonna do? I like the Meddler because we do have a couple ways to get creatures as a suspect. And it again goes well with the corner. We can suspect one of our 1/1 creatures, and then we can sacrifice them to the corner, draw 2 cards. I think it's a good value. You know, curve out, and we play this, add suspect. Then we can get, you know, hopefully one of these other 3 drops or 4 drops out. Then turn 5, we might have drawn into a corner at the very least. And you can do this the turn that you play it. Well, maybe not the turn that you play it because you already spent 5 mana, but the turn after you play it, you can activate its ability for mana and not even have to tap it, so it can still block for you. Yeah, maybe this just is a bit too slow as well. You have to disguise it to truly get it out in a time frame to where it can start doing work. If it were lower curve and we're more like the 2/1 flying creature we have here, then I think that would be a much better value proposition. But I think that this is a lot better for what we're doing, and we still have a couple of late game things we can do with Shady Informants. Can take out something that's potentially 6 toughness, and then we have lots of removal as well. Yeah, because like this can drain or this can, you know, not really drain, but it can help you win races if you just have a bunch of flying creatures. But we only have 1 other flying creature in our deck anyway, so I don't think we're going to be able to do that. Draft deck. Red, black, madness. We have lots of removal, and we just need to go ahead and get the value plays going and curve out, really. That's the name of the game here. We have somewhat of a sideboard for maybe a more aggressive start, and then maybe if we just need to have some late game blockers to buy time, we could do a corner on the sideboard. Alright, let's hope I'm not too late and I can still get the games in before the time is up on this. And if anyone else that's in this particular group of players is watching this, then I apologize for my computer crashing and making you wait around to finish your to go ahead and finish your roundup of games, basically. We definitely want to play first in our curve out here, but this is a really bad hand. If this were 2-lander, this is an instant keep. Turn 1, you get this out, and then you attack in turn 2. Yeah, we can't keep this. This is a keep, though. I think we can keep this. So, got both our main colors. I think Macabre Reconstruction here is... we don't want it in an opening hand. That's more of a late game card. We don't just want it to sit there and not do anything. So, really you want to draw into that more than you want to start with it, you know. If that was a 7... you know, if that was like the first opening hand that we were presented, I would have kept that too and just kept the card for later. But if I have to make a cut, that's what I'm doing. So I think we just go ahead and play this out now. They could exile a land, and that's all. That's fine, honestly. If they exile land, then whatever, you know, maybe they'll end up getting mana screwed as a result of it. And the dual leech is great, but we really need a land to hit our land drops. So as much as I want to keep this on top, we need to get to at least 3 lands to make sure we can keep up here. So I'm gonna turn the audio down just a little bit here. Seems like sometimes the background noise is a bit loud. At least when I'm wearing headphones, it does. So let's turn down these settings a little bit. Okay, trying to quick out of here. There we go. Alright, so we didn't draw a land, but we can play something here that we drew. Alright, so let's just attack first and see what happens. Okay. Let's just play this out. Well, I really want to land. Having multiple of these can have some value, because then we can just keep surveilling with multiple of those. So I think I'll keep this one. Might be a bad idea, but don't know why the music and sound effects tend to be so loud. Might be because I'm wearing headphones or whatever. Let's do that real quick. There we go. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's surveil first. Yeah, I think we need a land. And then inspector enters battlefield under your control. And, oh, and what was in here? Illicit Masquerade. Okay, that's interesting. Posture counter when critical posture counter dies, allow it. Okay, so that's another kind of graveyard kind of playing card. I guess they exiled it probably because maybe they're either splashing it, or because they don't have their black mana and they're splashing like a blue or something like that. So I think we attack with that too because it has Menace. And they're not going to be able to block that, so let's go this way. Yeah, so since both of those have Menace, we just attack in with them, and if they really want to block, then they can do that. I think we just want to keep on attacking as much as possible here. I think we just need to keep our creatures alive, and if we draw a land for Deadly Complication, we can attack in for 5 this turn, or next turn here. Okay, so now they discard a land. And then this is part of the case, and it's a suspect. Sadly, we don't have mana, which is really bad. But we can still attack in with most of our creatures because they have Menace, so we're still kind of winning this race. The Agency Coroner, if we can get that out in a couple of turns, we can sacrifice the skeleton and get a lot of value off of that because it's a suspect, and then it would solve our case, stash the skeleton. so what kind of value are they getting here? Other detectives get a buff, and then when you draw a second card each turn, detectives can't, or a detective can't be blocked this turn. Okay. So they're going for the blue-white detective deck. I think that's one of the archetypes where they can use like clue tokens to go ahead and get lots of value and draw lots of extra cards and things like that. This time I think that we would be okay blocking one of these. Save some damage, and we're still winning the race because our creatures have menace and they can't block them. There we go. Alright. So now that I have my third land, what do I want to do? I think if we want to win the race, I think we have to kill the Private Eye. So let's go ahead and do this. And then you control no suspected skeletons. Okay, so I can use this to go ahead and make my skeleton not be a suspect anymore. So let's go ahead and do murder first on this guy. Let's attack him. Our creatures have menace, so if they don't keep back any blockers, they're going to be in trouble here. Okay, so it's this. Death Touch, begin event step, we can investigate. For each turn. Okay, so I think we can do that like once, I believe. And then they can create tokens when they go ahead and utilize their clue. They can create a black and white creature token when they use their clue tokens here. Okay, so that's going to get them some value if they live past the next turn. But I don't think that they're going to be around to see that. So what does this do when it's solved? You can search library for any card. Okay, so that could be useful. So I go ahead and, well, if I do the +1/+1 counter, they can block, because this would no longer have menace though. Let's just go and do the Unscrupulous Agent. Let's make them exile a card. We have a chump blocker to keep winning the race here. And we get to surveil and make sure our draw is going to do okay. Okay, so I definitely want the swamp here. I need the land. And then if they want to double block my skeleton, then that still solves the case and gets rid of their flying token. So all these have menace, so I'm just going to keep on attacking in here, and I still have Deadly Complication to get in. I did not rearrange damage the way I should have there. That was a mistake, and it might cost me the game here. Because now they have an extra blocker. Yeah, auto-ordering damage. I should have manually ordered my damage there before clicking the OK. That was my mistake. And I'm sure that my opponent knows it too. That was an oopsie doopsie whoopsie from me. Okay, so I think we need to block here. Well, technically we have to block, otherwise they kill me. So let's go ahead and do this. Yeah, if they have a combat trick, that's going to go ahead and close. Oh, never mind, they go. Well, that kind of sucks. I made a vast miscalculation there with the damage that my skeleton dealt, and it cost me that game. They might have won anyway, because I was just kind of mana screwed in that game. Why is the game board blank? I want to view the battlefield, please. I don't know what's going on there. But apparently the battlefield is turned into a dark black hole. Anyway, so they had the blue-white detective deck. If we had ways to destroy artifacts on the sideboard, I would put them in. Is it worth splashing Breakout? This is only for creature cards. I don't think it's worth it in this matchup. This to ramp up into something like the Coroner could be helpful, but we're not really making use of clue tokens, so that's the only thing that it's good for, is ramping into the Coroner for the most part. Basilica Stalker could help against flying creatures in the late game, so that's a valid reason to play them. But Shady Informant, if we can get that out, we can deal 2 damage to any target, so that could be a 2-for-1 effect. Because they have the 3/2 detectives that this could kill with the 2 damage to any targets, so... well, I think that since they can draw a lot of cards, Unscrupulous Agent maybe isn't as good here. So we'll take that out and put in a Repeat Offender. What? Okay. I guess I didn't get my changes logged in time, because there was about only a couple seconds left. So I took a bit too long there, but if we sideboard... if we win in the sideboard next game, then I think I know what I'm probably going to do. I think we might still be in good shape. So I think this is still a decent hand. We can still get this out with the disguise cost with only black mana, so I think we're okay with this one. Presumed Dead could be interesting here as well with menace creatures, since a double block could kill 2 creatures there. Alright, so let's go ahead and you know, they already know that we're black-red, so let's just go ahead and do that. Okay, and so now I think we're in a decent spot. If we draw 1 more land, that would be incredibly good with our Gorehound. So I think we can play that. First, we're going to go ahead and attack in and see if they have like some kind of special removal here. They're not gonna, probably not going to use it on the Gorehound, but figured I would try. Then we're going to go ahead and play this for the face down card. Do the good old-fashioned disguise. So I mean that would be good because it allows us to surveil again. But we do want to hit land drops more than anything. 1 more and we are in great shape. So I think we have to go ahead and put this in the graveyard. I think we need to land a bit more, or at least a 3-drop of some kind. We do have some 3-drops we could draw into, which would be good, or one of our case cards might also be decent here. Because all of our cases are 3 mana or less, so those would be okay. That's not a great draw, since we need land again. Moral of the story, you all need land. So do I want to flip that now and just get the value off of it with the lifelink? Yeah, I think so. Let's just go ahead and do this now. And let's get in. Okay, this looks like an interesting card. It's going to be a good blocker, but not against creatures that have menace. So Presumed Dead could at least kill the Inspector, which is interesting. Murder, on the other hand, could be interesting too if we just wanted to straight up attack in. But then again, let's just do the Slimy Jewel Leech, because we can attack in with both the Gorehound and the Savior here. And this is only when you solve cases. Okay, so they might have a couple cases in here that are splashing for colors, so maybe that's why they had some splashing colors in the first game that we saw. Fifth land would be nice, but I think that this is good with 4 lands, so I think we're going to keep this, so that way we can get in with removal. And if they want to trade one of their protectors for the Gorehound, I'm okay with that. Alright, so I know what we're going to use our removal on. In fact, I'm probably going to save Murder for next turn. Well, I guess whenever you draw your second card each turn, okay, so if they draw a second card next turn, then Murder is less good, but if we can use Murder to turn their Inspector here into a 3/2, we can block with the Slimy Jewel Leech and kill it for free, like a dual, sort of a dual thing going there. Let's go to combat. And then I can do Presumed Dead if they double block the Dual Leech. Yeah, that's instant speed. So let's attack with everything here. I can also do it on the Gorehound as well. But, okay, so they're just going to go ahead and do that. I thought that they might try and double block there. Because I thought they might just try and go ahead and kill the Dual Leech. They're just playing it safe. Which is understandable. I think we just go ahead and use the sorcery speed removal now, and we take out their private eye that's getting all the value for them. So yeah, I attacked with the Dual Leech because I was hoping that they might try and double block it to try and kill it, but they weren't falling for it. Maybe playing around a combat trick of some kind, so props to them. The cool thing too is that because I played sorcery speed removal, they don't exactly know what I had in my hand that I would have tried to use during that combat phase to get them. So I could play these face down. Flying and Vigilance. I think if we just go ahead and use murder on the witness, then we can just start getting in there even more. Yeah, I think we just do that and try and win the race here. Let's get rid of this, since it basically stops our savior and trades with them if they want. And if they want to trade with the Gorehound, I'm okay with that. So they might be dead on board if they don't do something next turn, because I can do presumed dead on our savior and they die. So they need removal or another flying creature, which they have. Shady Informant with their secondary ability could kill it, but I don't think we're going to need it because we have Shock to go ahead and take care of their witness. So with 1 mana, is there anything that can get me here, like a counter spell? Probably not, because I have spare mana to deal with that. So let's just go ahead and Shock the witness now. And then presume dead right. Okay. Yep, so it's going to do presume dead on our flyer, get in, and do lethal. So game is acting a little bit glitchy today. Let's see. Because yeah, you can't, the border isn't coming up on the card, so my mouse cursor is hovering over it for some reason. So game is a bit glitchy today. Maybe it's the servers being overhounded, like these Gorehounds, because of the new set. So I think I wanted to have last time, I think I added in, yeah, I took out an agent and I put in a repeat offender. The Alley Assailant might be okay here, because they have those, well, I guess those are 3/2 creatures, but they have some flying creatures as well. So do we have anything that can help out there? That's trample, so not reach, so we don't want to splash for that. We really haven't been hitting enough lands to play these coroners, and we only really need 1 on the field to get value off of it, and not 2. I think actually putting in a Greyhound and then just taking out an agent here is going to help the aggression a bit more. The curve is worse, but we can still play a 1-drop on turn 2, or even 2 1-drops on turn 2, depending on our mana, which I think is still solid for our deck. Yeah, because I think that the 1/1s and getting them to discard stuff isn't really impacting their card draw strategy. They draw enough cards to overcome dropping a land or some late game creature. Yeah, so we'll go with this. We're going to just try and aggro them out with this deck. I think will work a bit better. And then whatever they do play out, if they play anything expensive out, we have plenty of removal to take care of them. So yeah, this is a decent hand. It would be more ideal to have a 2-drop or a 3-drop in the opening hand, but I'm not going to complain. I can get out a Gorehound and then do a combat trick to get rid of one of their bigger creatures on a later turn if they decide to double block at some point. Gorehounds it is. So this is like one of the few case cards I've actually seen them play. Whenever a detective enters the battlefield under control, and whenever the detective controls turn face up, put +1/+1 counter on it. Okay, so this is a good value card to buff up all their detectives when they come into the field. Then a bunch of detectives, they can do stuff. So if you have 3 more detectives, and then more tokens screen under control. So you can basically create more clue tokens, or if you get a lot of creature tokens out with like white spells, then you can create clue tokens on top of that. Okay, so I guess they want to investigate. Yeah, I think that was purely for their clue token investigate thing. So, but we did draw into a 3-drop, so that's a great draw here with the Meddler. I guess suspecting our Gorehound doesn't do much because it already has Menace, but and then whenever one of the creatures control attack, surveil 1. Alright, so I guess it's some value here. We get to surveil for free, and that's a good draw. We do want double black for murder, but I'm not going to complain because we got the slimy Dual Leech next turn for the Gorehound. And then I think we just go ahead and do this. It looks like they're a bit mana screwed in this game, so it's kind of unfortunate for them. I do want to keep the land for murder in the corner. Well, that's attack. Yep, I do want to keep the land on the 4. So, this will be interesting. We have the ever watchful Sun Diamond, whatever eye over here watching us. Then we have this little glow-in-the-dark dancing silhouette, or whatever it is right there. Looks like something straight out of like the Hook movie, the Peter Pan movie Hook. Robin Williams going with his silhouette. So let's go ahead and let's put our land out, and then I guess let's just go ahead and get the creature out. Doesn't really matter the order I do this in. And then yeah, let's just go ahead and attack in here with everything. Another land. I think another land's okay here. It'll allow us to go ahead and easily double spell next turn if we need to. So this is like a sort of tempo, sort of removal, semi-removal, kind of breaking the tempo of your aggression. Yeah, so we can use murder on that, and then we can presume dead. I think it'll be 5, 6, 7, presumed dead gets the lethal. Yep, let's do that. Now let's put this on big creature. I guess we would have technically had lethal because of the dual leech buff there, but I was just trying to play it safe, I guess. Doesn't really matter. The good games, I think they got mana screwed this game, that's what lost them, but to be fair, the first game that we played, I was also mana screwed, and I was still able to put pressure on them with only like 2 or 3 lands, to my credit, I guess. So like, you know, being mana screwed, yeah, it's not a good feeling, I imagine, but I kind of dealt with it too, so I mean, it sucks to lose like that, especially when it's the final game, but sometimes that's just the way that Magic goes, unfortunately. For better or worse, that's just Magic. Probably someone else that's been sitting on their butt waiting for me to show up all this time. Which again, I apologize, Lepnix, that it took me so long to get here. Yeah, they probably want to go into play, of course. This is a terrible hand and very unkeepable. Even on the draw, if we had 1 black mana here, we'd be in a good position. But we can't do that. This is even worse. That's even worse. We got to go down to 5. We'll keep this one. Let's get rid of that, and we can get rid of 1 murder. Shock and murder is still fine. Sucks to put murder on the bottom, but we already have some removal on hand, so we should still be okay. Not the ideal curve out, though, is the problem with not being able to have 6 or 7 cards in your opening hand. Red herring. Alright, so that's going to be like an aggro card that we have to deal with, but one thing that can kind of disrupt aggro is if you're trying to get into their hand here and have them exile one of them. I think it's better than shock here. Obviously the red herring is, you know, it's going to be doing its thing, but if we can get the slimy dual leech out, then it will die. So sacrifice it. So now we're getting the lands after having a 5-hander for our opening hand, or a 5-card opening hand, and now we're getting the lands that we need. Let's just do that. Attack in. Ideally we play the dual leech next turn unless they play out a bomb card here that we need to get rid of. Not really aware of what the bomb cards in the set are or what the ultimate synergies are that you have to watch out for. Okay. So this is a 2-for-1 value card. Yeah, 2 creatures in 1. Alright, so we play the dual leech, then we can at least block the 2/2 token. Can't block the menace creature, but we'll have to live with that. We can also attack in with the unscrupulous agent as well. Like this. So we can't block the person of interest, but we can only block 1 creature this turn anyway, so at the very least we're keeping back their 2/2 creature in this instance. Alright, so not having shock to go ahead and get a 2-for-1 there kind of sucks, but again, it's magic, what can you do? Or attacks. Okay, so yeah, we want to keep mana open so that shock can get them when they try and put a +1/+1 counter on the creature. So let's get in with them, and then we're going to try and get them next turn to try attacking in. Okay, so what do we want to do here? No, it's a suspect. That's okay. You can't block, but you know what? Them's the breaks. Let's do shock now before they put on the +1/+1 counter. Go ahead and take care of 4/4 that gets value for attacking. So I kind of spent some of the turn on that, so that's kind of why I waited until the last moment there, but yeah, drawing a land is not very good there. I think we just have to attack in with both of our creatures here. Since the dual leech has menace, or the suspect tag on it, we can't block with it anyway, so we might as well just attack with it. So looks like they're gonna go ahead and try and dig for something it can wipe the floor with us. Yeah, but I think that this is... we're going to move on to game number 2 here. We had a 5-card opening hand. We didn't curve out. Let's not show them anything else, because we're not going to be able to come back from this. Is the battlefield working? It is not. That sucks. Because I really want to be able to look at what they had there, just to remember more clearly what they had. But they do have attack NDU type effects, and we have removal, but we need to be able to block their creatures. I think that Agent again is maybe not quite as good here. Repeat Offender could potentially block one of their 2/2 creatures. And I think the Gorehound is still good here. We need to make sure we can curve out in this matchup. And then maybe Case of the Crimson Pulse is just too slow. It can get rid of lands to get us more cards, but I think we just need playables that we can get some value off of right away against these guys that are going to be attacking in a lot. Let's drop the Case, make our curve a little bit better, and have a bit more immediate value for what we do. So yeah, if I don't get mana screwed in my opening hand here, I think we still have a decent chance to out aggro them and get to them before they get to us. Alright, so this is decent. 1-drop, 2-drop, and then at minimum 2-drop on the next turn. We probably play this on turn 3, so that way they play out more cards. So that way they have less of a opportunity to just discard an extra land that they have. So if we wait a bit to play the Agent, then it's going to make their choice cover on what they want to discard. So let's surveil first by getting this creature out. Murder's good. We could use some removal, so they have some creatures that we would definitely want to get off the field before they get the combo going for their synergies. They just want to keep attacking in as much as they can, and Murder can kind of disrupt that plan. And this is, I think, they have a weird style. It's like a Windows 95 type style on their card there. So yeah, this is one of the mana fixing lands. So that's interesting. So let's go ahead and do this, and then let's just get out the Agent and do the Surveil before we attack. Either of these is fine. Corner is interesting. And we do have some creatures sacked to it. I mean, yeah, that's okay. It can block their 4/4s and all those other kinds of creatures, so... And they get you land. Let's attack in. So we want to draw a land in 2 turns to be in the ideal shape. And then when we get this out, if we get the 5th land, we can sacrifice a skeleton and then solve this case as well. Let's have the extra mana out just in case we need it for whatever reason. Let's attack in with all. If they have a flash creature of some kind, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that too, because we get to solve the case, so thank you. Thank you. How do I solve the case? Does it let me know how I can do that? You control no suspected skeletons, which I guess it's going to take place in next turn to get that trigger going. So, oh, okay. It happens at the end of your. It happens at your end step. Okay. Okay, let's end turn. Okay, so we'll be okay against that. Alright, well, it's not what I want to see, but we can still do Presumed Dead plus solve this case. Let's see what we can find here first. We get to choose from our entire library here, so which card do we want the most? There's a lot of stuff here to sift through. Vesterleech, we can buff it. I don't think we want to mill cards right now, though. This would be good for attacking in. I think the Savior might actually be the best bet here, just going over the top. Let's just do the Savior. We have plenty of removal already, and this can help us win the race against them. I think we attack in with both here. So now we do this, and then we get the battlefield effect one more time when it dies. Vesterleech, I will take that. It's not a land that I want, but it's still a card that I want, so I'm okay with that. I can do that plus the Savior the next turn. Savior face down plus Vesterleech. So it might be in our best interest to go and kill that as soon as possible. Yeah, decisions are pretty tough here. Let's go ahead, and I think we need to go ahead and murder this Vigilante right now before they get the value engine going. And then it doesn't really matter what order we do this in, so we're just going to do it now so we can get that out. Okay, so the Gorgon's Kiss. That's actually pretty good because we have some 1/1s, so 1/1 creatures, that's going to be pretty handy. Unscrupulous Agent could chump block, and then we can kill their person of interest or whatever creature they get out in the future. Okay, well, that's going to be interesting. So I think we can play this. Yeah, I think we attack first and then we can do our stuff after combat, actually. I can only, yeah, we can only activate that once each turn. It does not have Menace, so let's attack in with both of our 1/1s here and see what they do. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's just go ahead and murder this guy. Yeah, we'll play Case of the Gargoyle's Kiss in a future turn. Like that. Yeah, Yes, if I'm going to sacrifice on 2 non-land, non-token permanents. If they don't, you draw 2 cards. So we can sacrifice the agent, and then we can go ahead and sacrifice maybe the Hound, but I think we want the Menace on that, so this is interesting. Yeah, I think we actually want to sacrifice the... I think we might need to just aggro them in. Let's just go ahead and do that. Okay, so now Shock combos really well with the Case of the Gorgon's Kiss here, surprisingly. I think we can attack in first and see what they do if they want to block it here. We can actually do all 4 of these things in a turn. You know what, let's just go ahead and do this. Let's do Shock. Case of the Gorgon's Kiss. And then let's just go ahead and pump this thing up. Okay, so we milled the land, which is good. And Repeat Offender is... Well, I guess milling the land isn't the best because we don't have the land for the corner, but if you're going to mill something that's low value, a land and a 2-drop is probably acceptable there. So now I can do the Savior. I think we do this. We play this first, and then we can Surveil with our Savior being played face down on this next turn. And we have to have 3 more creature cards put into a graveyard, so it's going to be a bit tough. But so that face down. The next turn, if we don't draw a land, we can turn it face up. We can turn that face up and play the Gorehound. I think we're gonna have to go for it and stick with the Gorehound. I really wanted that 5th land, but having playables on a top deck wars also has some merit. What does this thing do? You control it, and it's Face Power 1, and Death Touch, and yada yada. Okay, so I'm actually okay with just taking this here. The lifelink that we get from turning the card face up is going to help us, so I need to just outrace them here as much as possible. Unless they're milling their own cards when they do this, so I guess that didn't actually hurt them because they milled 2 lands, so that's a bummer. Okay, so what do I want to do here? I think we turn this face up. Then we play this and Surveil. Tapped land is not what we need right now, so it's going to go into the graveyard. Untapped land, I would take it, but we either need a land untapped or we need something we can play. So let's get in there. We can chump block next turn, and lifelink will have us at just enough to survive, unless they have a way to give the Festerleech Menace. Did we get there? Next turn we could have lethal. If they can't give the Fester Leech a menace, or if they can't give Person of Interest. Okay, we got there! Yes! I actually thought we were done there. We were mana screwed for a lot of that game, but we still won. Oh man. This is actually a pretty good archetype, just red-black aggro, not even focusing on, like, you know, artifacts or all these other sacrifice type synergies. You just do pure aggro to get past them as much as you can. I mean, I still like having the tapped land here for the savior, so we don't have to do the disguise all the time. Plus, this can go ahead and surveil for you as well. If it's like you don't have a 1-drop in your opening hand, you put this out turn 1. And then you just surveil that turn to make sure your draw is going to be good. I think that we just run it back. A 3/3 here isn't going to be a blocker if we're playing on the draw. So, not really the best value in this particular deck. So I think we just have to run it back with what we've got. Okay, so this is a decent opening hand. You know, we could use something in the 3 mana to 5 mana range and the next few draw steps. If we flood out, we're in big trouble, but if we draw some gas, I think this is going to be really good. Yeah, Gorehound turn 1, and we get to Surveil turn 2 with getting the Fester Leech out. So I think I like that. Okay, so you have the Agent. You finally have enough mana where I think we're going to actually be able to play the Agency Corner in this game. I don't believe we've actually had a chance to play this yet, as bad as that sounds. I think we can actually pass on the Fester Leech for now and just go with the Repeat Offender, actually. They already know we're red-black. Let's just do this. I think another Gorehound's okay. We can do Gorehound plus Fester Leech next turn, and we get to Surveil twice with 2 creatures going into the field. Well, actually, technically, we might be able to Surveil 3 times because we play the Gorehound first and then the Fester Leech after that. That would be 3 total triggers from that, so... They play the face down card, but they don't have any mana to turn it face side up just yet. So let's go ahead and do some of this first. We can suspect it to give it menace if we want. You know what? That's actually not a bad idea, and surveying once this turn I think is still good, so... Well, I guess we have to give up surveilling, though. Yeah, I think we go ahead and do this. I don't mind if they have the information. 5th land is what we want. We'll keep Presumed Dead up, so that way if we want to use that as a combat trick, we can. Actually, I'm just okay trading. If it were the unscrupulous, whatever you call it, that has them exile a card, then we probably would have used it there for the other into the battlefield effect trigger. Yep, I think that's, yeah, we want the swamp. 5th land. 5th land for the corner, and I think we're going to be cooking with heat here. I could actually just sacrifice the Fester Leech here to the corner on a couple turns from now. For now, though, I think we play the land. And we just attack in. That's 2 mana and that's 2 mana, so we can get their 2/4 to be dead if they block here. All aggro all the time. And I think we're still going to go ahead and buff this up for more damage. Alright, so we milled the Shock, which isn't good, but it's not going to kill their Argus host anyway, so... Whatever it attacks, physical creatures, violent. Don't really mind that. That's okay. Right now we're just trying to out-aggro them, and we mill the Shock and then our Meddler. Okay, so losing the Meddler kind of hurts, but the Agency Corner, what they can do is they can sacrifice any of our creatures that have Menace on them, so that way the Argus Coast can't just exile them for free. Unless you sacrifice an artifact this turn, spell can't be countered. Deals 4 damage to target creature. Okay. Enjoy your removal. Another Agency Corner. Okay, so this will allow us to double block with it and the Fester Leech, so they can't just attack in. So yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Let's surveil before we attack. Oh, never mind, it's not power 2 or less, so we can't surveil with it. So if they attack in, it's likely they have something, a combat trick would at least kill the Fester Leech before we can deal our damage to it. I doubt they would do it for such low value. It's just a 1/1 at this point for the most part. But if they give the suspect tag to anything other than Agency Corner if they decide to attack, then I can just sacrifice it next turn, no problem. I'm going to do it to the corner, but I can play my own corner and still... Oh yeah, if it gives a suspect tag, then it can't block. So they're going to try and do that to get in there. Not the Snow Destroyer, actually. So there's the Rakdos, who's probably a very overpowered card, bomb rare that they got. I think we just do the Gorehound and the Fester Leech, maybe? I don't want them to draw cards here. Unfortunately, though, I think it's not going to matter. I think that we're dead. We don't have enough gas here. If we drew a removal spell there, we could have played that instead of the corner to buy some time. Let's just go ahead and do this. I could have tried bluffing and acting like I have a combat trick to kill their Rakdos by attacking, but I don't think that they're going to be falling for it. Like a combat trick or a removal spell that deals damage, and yeah, Jesus. That's unfortunate, but I think we know what to do here. We were able to get him in the second game by just pounding in there and trying to get in there, but did not work out this time. So, yeah, good game, and you know, this one wasn't exactly close in the 2 games that we lost, but the Rakdos is such a balmy card. Like, it's obviously it's doable for us to still win. If we have removal for it, we can sacrifice 1/1 creatures pretty easily. But yeah, that's rough. Alright, so we need to win the game here, get some more gems. 250 gems is just short of being able to turn this gem count into 1500, so really need to go ahead and win our last best of 3 here. Who, again, I assume the person waiting here has been waiting for an eternity for us to show up, so let's see what they're doing here. Alright, we always want to play first in this aggro deck. Another terrible hand. Even more terrible on the play with 1 land. I mean, 16 lands should not be getting this level of land disrespect here, but oh god. I mean, it's 16 lands, and it's an aggro deck. You expect to have 16 lands in an aggro deck. Mono Red might even have 15 lands in a all-out aggro deck, so down to 5 we go, and we finally get 2 lands. I think the corner has to go too slow and not enough lands to make it work. I think the Dual Leech actually is going to go really well with the Savior if we get them both down onto the field. But we need double black for it. Let's just go and take the Meddler out and hope that we can get 1 more land for the Savior to get him out the turn. Okay, so we're in some terrible shape here, unfortunately, game 1. Could use Shock on a 2-drop that we want to get rid of early before any of their value cards or aggression gets going. Plus, I have no idea if I'm going to draw a land here. But yeah, we're in serious trouble already, so they know that we're mana screwed since we didn't play a land there, so now they're going to probably start getting going. That cannot die to Shock, so we are really in trouble. Yeah, I think we've already lost the game. No curve out in this deck is basically the kiss of death. Finally got that, but I think it's already too late at this point. I think this is the only thing we can really do in this situation. Get rid of that. See, it would have been nice to have these cards in the opening hand. That would have been a great curve out, but yeah, unfortunately it just did not work out for us this game. Swap the Gorehound with the Informant, and we swap out Savior with the Case of the Stashed Skeleton, and we're in decent shape, but yeah, we're gonna need mana to get all the cards out of our hand anytime soon. So what we could do is we could do Gorehound first, then Case of the Stashed Skeletons to surveil off of it with the 2/1 skeleton creature we get to try and ensure we hit our next land drop. Oh, never mind, I'm an idiot. I do not have double black. Yeah, we're in more trouble than I thought. We should have just done the Savior there, face down. Big mistake on my part, guys. Your good old pal Love Bat just making mistakes after he's been out of the game for a while. Shaking off the rust. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under control, deals 1 damage to each opponent. Jeez Louise. Yeah, they must have some token generation there to have that go off like a bad habit. Sadly, we can't even block here and use Shock to kill the face down card because the ward prevents us from doing that. Yeah, I think we're too far behind at this point to even do anything, so I might even just want to call it here and not give them any more information. They have 5 lands, a bunch of cards still in hand. They have a really awesome card on the field that I cannot remove of anything I have in my deck. Yeah, let's not give them any more information. I think that winning here is impossible, unfortunately, so we're going to have to call it. I would have wanted to play that one out, but I think we were just too far behind at that point. So let's just get our lower curve cards in here as much as possible. That way, if we're mana screwed in this matchup, we at least have lots of low curve creatures to play out with 2 mana. So I mean, 16 lands is still enough. It's an aggro deck. You kind of expect that. So, and it's going to be some artifact-based stuff, but we don't have anything that deals with artifacts. I mean, this could get rid of some select cards since the second option allows you to choose the card. But it's also 3 mana, so it's really off curve for us to play that. Yeah, I think that's what we go with. We need as many aggressive cards as we can get, I think, in this matchup. And we only need 1 corner to get the value off of it in the late game, so... the reason why I say that is because the corner doesn't need to tap to even activate its ability. What the heck is this? Like... I am getting more mana screwed than a swamp on a bad day. Okay, well, this is unkeepable. We're gonna have to mull to 6. This is also unkeepable. We're gonna have to mull to 5. I have 9 black sources and 7 red sources, so this should not be happening. This should not be happening. Oh, good lord. Alright, we're basically forced to keep this one because we have no other choice. I think we're going to have to get rid of Repeat Offender here. Or not Repeat Offender, sorry. We're going to need to get rid of the... do we want the Agent or the Offender? The Offender at least gives us a mana sink. So I think that one's actually better. Plus, we can make it a suspect, and then we can use the corner to sacrifice it later on if we get there, so... It's not looking good for your pal Love Bat here, so... The opening hands that kind of screwed us really bad, so... And I'm not using that as an excuse, but you've all seen it. 1 landers, sometimes off color from most of the cards in my hand, is really terrible. So. Yeah, I have made some mistakes in these games, like that one block where I didn't allocate the damage correctly, which kept the 1-1 flyer alive. That probably cost us the game. I think that was the biggest one that we made. Yeah, alright, so we can do... Well, I guess actually we can't, because the we need double black to get both of these onto the field. I think we just do this. We do the suspect now. Next turn, if we draw a black mana, we play 2 spells with the Gorehound and the Leech. And then if we draw a 5th land the turn after that, we can get the Coroner out and then sacrifice the Repeat Offender for 2 cards instead of 1 if we do it in this order. So, fingers crossed that I actually get a black source of mana with all the mana I have in there with the 9 black sources. Okay, so the front masks. Okay. Solve, dealt damage this turn. Okay, so they have some damage-based removal, I imagine. Let's do this for the Surveil value. Yeah, we really need a black mana, or I think we're also dead in this one. We really need double black for Murder to cast that, and we need double black for the 2-1 lifelink flyer that we can turn over with the double black mana. Alright, just in the nick of time, I hope. Let's just do... When it dies, you could create a creature token. Okay. That's 3 or more sources, so... Don't think it really matters here which one we do. Let's play this out. Oh, excuse me. A little bit of gas coming up the chute. I think Murder's okay. I mean, I still want the land, obviously. I've wanted it all game, but... I'm not going to pass up on a good old-fashioned Murder, so... Then if they attack, I can use the Fester Leech defensively to go ahead and pump it up to take care of their Night Watch. Now granted, if they attack in with Night Watch and it dies anyway, they get the token and all that, but I'd rather just take care of that now with my 1-1 trading for their 3-2. Yeah, it's a 4 mana 3-2 trading for 1 mana 1-1, so... Looks like they're going through timeouts, trying to figure out what to do here. So if they stay idle for a long time without doing anything, it could indicate that they disconnected and they're trying to log back in before they end up auto-conceding this game. Yeah, it might be a situation where they disconnected, the internet might have gone out on them, so it's another unfortunate circumstance, honestly, so... Attack in with everything. Resume Dead, or traditionally just buffing the Fester Leech can both kill the Night Watch here, so... And Gorehound having Menace, they're not going to be able to go ahead and deal with that right now. Yeah, this is very likely my opponent disconnected, and it would maybe take them a couple of minutes to get back into the game proper to complete the match, so I don't know what's going on there. I don't want to win this series by a disconnect, especially since they were winning. They were beating me pretty badly. Okay, let's just pump this up then. Okay, so we milled the dual leech, which is unfortunate because that would have gone great with the creatures that we have, but yeah, so if they auto-concede here, I don't know if they just concede this one game or if they concede the entire series. So Fitzgerald JD, if you're watching this, I don't like it when players lose this way with disconnects, because I know how that feels. My game crashed after I just finished the draft and I was recording this and lost that footage, and if it happened in the middle of a game, that would have been pretty terrible too. I would have lost that round of games by default, but yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it when people lose like this. I don't know if it's the game client acting up. It was kind of glitching out for me earlier trying to view the battlefield. So I don't know if Arena is just having issues right now, like major issues. So we're hearing the audio prompts on the interface, and yeah, let's disconnect, concede, and I guess we auto-win there the series. So probably the most anticlimactic ending to a video, especially a draft video where we win by default. I know that some people say that they'll take it because it's, hey, it's free gems for them and they're going to take what they can get, but consider me a sportsman who likes winning when I win, a fair, I win fairly. I win by just playing the game as intended instead of disconnects that would never happen in like a paper Magic game, if that makes sense. You don't disconnect in real life. So, but yeah, they had the upper hand here. The 3/2 was going to be able to get in and attack in, and even if we trade the Fester Leech for it, they still get the other creature out. And then this, at some point, I imagine, was going to be able to use a couple burn spells while after attacking in and hopefully getting enough to solve this case in a single turn, and then getting a bomb card out, which I assume that they had in this archetype here. I'm assuming there's some kind of red-white sort of creature-centric cards that would have run us over if we stuck around longer. So yeah, so really sorry, Fitzgerald JD. If you are watching this, I doubt you are, but if you are out there and you managed to find this, don't take it personal, because I really hate it when this happens, to be honest. So I don't like winning matches like this. I want to win just a fair game where you win fair and square, mano y mano, and that's it. So, and to be honest, they were actually playing a better game than I was at that point. But then again, I think maybe their curve out and their draws were probably a bit better than mine. So that's also a consideration, because I had some pretty crummy opening hands that I had to mulligan there. So, all right. So, I mean, we get the 2 wins. We get the gems to go ahead and do another draft video in the future, which is nice. It's just, I hate the ending. It's like, a team chokes down the stretch in a sporting event and things just kind of win by default, or the other team gets like chicken pox and they can't play in a really big match and then they lose by default, or something like that. So and I guess in 2020 that was actually the case for COVID. NCAA March Madness at the beginning of 2020 was canceled because of COVID, because the pandemic happened just before March Madness got underway, and they had to cancel the whole thing. So, you really hate to see things like that happen. So let's go ahead and open up these packs that we just won and see what kind of things we're getting here. And learn a bit more about the cards as well, since that was my first ever draft and actually looking at any of the cards. So, destroy target permanent opponent controls. That by itself is already awesome for 2 mana. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put on the battlefield, then shuffle. Oh my god. Removal plus ramp in the same 2 mana card. Yes, please. Yes, please. Alright, so Aftermath Analyst, when it enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. And that's kind of like the graveyard green-black type decks love to mill cards. I think blue-black might also occasionally like to do it, but this is green, so it's going to be a different archetype. And then you sacrifice it, you can get lands to the graveyard to the battlefield. So it can be, if you have like a 6 or 7 mana green finisher, which is fairly common in that card archetypes, like green-red, I'm assuming has something like that. This could be really good if you're able to go ahead and get down 2 or 3 lands in your graveyard, ramp up to 6 or 7 mana, and then put out a big finisher early on the board. But other than that, it's just, you know, it's just kind of there. It's only if you can ramp up into big stuff. Disguise, and yeah, we had the Offender at Large in our deck. We weren't really able to use it. We never actually got to play it, so never really came up, and it probably wouldn't have helped us in the matchups that we had. So not sure if I like this card all that much. Maybe there's a Disguise synergies that I'm not familiar with yet that would go well with this card. Like maybe if there's like double triggers to give +4/+0 instead, that would be pretty interesting. And then cast it, collect evidence. So evidence is another graveyard mechanic in like blue, and I think I'm assuming that green-black probably has something similar to that too, for the graveyard plays and getting stuff in and out of the graveyard. And then there's battlefield, tap your creature, so it's a good tempo creature, and graveyard shenanigans. Haste, and this looks like a good red-white aggro card with Meddling Youth, so could be interesting. You know, not something I would probably first pick, but I'd probably prefer like a 5/4 or 6/4 hasty aggro card instead. That maybe you can pump up with like a pump the team effect or some kind of combat trick to keep it alive when it attacks. But investigating, though, we saw there's actually pretty darn good when you do the attack in and get free value out of it. The red-white that we played in that matchup there. So Nervous Gardener, Disguise, and search out the reveal up on your hand. Alright, second fix for mana, so it's pretty decent. And then enters battlefield, investigates. It's a 1-drop detective that investigates for the blue-white deck. First pick would be easy Assassin's Trophy. So green-black, it seems like it would be pretty fun to play in this sort of, you know, this set. So I'll look forward to that at some point. The second pack, Doorkeeper Thrall. Flash, flying, and artifacts and creatures entering battlefield don't cost abilities to trigger. So this seems like something that might be the ultimate sideboard card. Because if enter the battlefield effects aren't really what your opponents are doing, then this is just a basic 1/2 fly creature. But if you have them on the sideboard against an artifact heavy deck like the, what was it, blue-red, I believe it was, then this could be awesome as a sideboard option. But a rare, not really worth first picking, though. Furtive Courtier can't be blocked as long as you sacrifice an artifact this turn, so that would be for all the tokens that you can sacrifice, the clue tokens, and I suppose in constructed treasure tokens would also be a pretty good option for that and similar things. Whenever Furtive Courtier attacks, draw a card, then discard a card, so you can kind of rummage through as well. So that looks like a pretty good, it's not a detective, but it would probably do decently well in the detective deck that has lots of artifact type things and draw a card synergies. Out cold, it can't be countered, and then this is like a tempo sort of sort of tempo semi-removal card, and you get a clue token out of it, so good for the detective deck also. Behind the Mask, you can collect evidence for the graveyard, and then it's a low mana that later on in the game you can do it low mana cost, and then do the collect evidence to make up for the low mana cost. So, and then you can do as like a combat trick, and then yeah. So if I'm understanding this correctly, you have to collect the you may collect evidence 6, so you can either use it as a combat trick on your own creature, or you can collect evidence. I think this was something that was used on us during one of the games, and giving one of our creatures base 1/1 basically. So it can be used both ways, to either combat trick one of your creatures or to debuff one of their creatures and not send it to the graveyard essentially. This looks like due diligence, buffs a target creature basically, and then okay. So this can be like a finishing combat trick to get in with a couple of creatures, maybe in the mid to late game, and then one of the creatures retains the benefit after the combat trick. So that's pretty decent at minimum. This can be like a good sideboard option if you want to try and finish your opponent on, you know, turn 5, turn 6, and like red-white aggro. Let's look at Stalker. We didn't really get a chance to play that. Maybe it's a bit too slow in this format without ramp elements, so it would be neat if it were a slightly lower mana cost, or maybe if the disguise cost was lower by 1 mana. It would make it interesting, because like you could do turn 3 face down Stalker, then turn 4 play it out would be more interesting in my opinion. So, Suspicious Arrival, creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, investigate. That's a decent combat trick for the blue-white detective deck. So, what would I do? The Courtier is, I think, pretty good. You know, you can get in there with damage with clue tokens. And you can go ahead and rummage as well. So I'd probably first pick this as a build round for the detective type deck, even though it's not itself a detective. But it would go great in that deck, I believe. Let's see, this next pack we have Hunted Bone Brute. 6/2 Menace for 3 mana is interesting in the aggro decks. 100 enters the battlefield. You target creates 2/1 white dog creature tokens. Okay. So if you have ways to deal with their 1/1 tokens with like some removal or some other way to deal with them. There's also that one card that we talked about in that last pack, the 1/2 rare, where enter the battlefield abilities don't trigger. You could combo that with a Hunted Bone Brute and mitigate the downside by having them in the same deck if you're lucky to get them both. So this is maybe more of a constructed card, but I can see it working in select decks that are all aggro and you have enough removal to get rid of small token bodies or board sweeper type things that get rid of like do 1 damage to the board, get rid of the 1/1s, and then you get in there. 1/3 reach, the smallest sentry, and whenever face down permanent you control is face up, you can put a counter on it and also a counter on the sentry. That's really good. Really good indeed for the, you know, +1 counter value. And this is combat trick, +3/+3 until end of turn. We saw the Projector Inspector played against us in that one blue-white detective deck that we went up against. This seems pretty decent. Obviously it's not going to work outside of that archetype. A 3 mana 3/2 is not exciting at all. But in the detective deck, I think it works pretty well to rummage through the deck and get your good cards and get the draw card synergies going. And then Breakout, we didn't play with this card when we drafted it, but in green-red, if you have like strong multicolored 2 mana creatures, that's like a 2 mana 3/2, it's like green-red, then something like that can be pretty strong with Breakout to get value out of this card. but maybe it's only good in that particular instance, so not my first choice. Out Cold, we saw this before, tempo, semi-removal, so could be interesting in the detective deck as a sideboard option to tap down big creatures late in the game, so that way you can attack past them and finish them off before they can sort of get the snowball going against you. An Alley Assailant, and we drafted this one. We didn't play it. Not my favorite card. I'm not sure if the disabling Enter the Battlefield effects from that 1/2 rare that we came across would disable this entering tapped. If so, that would make this card much better as a blocker. You get out on turn 3. So yeah, that could be interesting. Sumala Sentry, of all these cards, definitely gets the first pick. It would be a pretty awesome build around card, and on its own it would be a good blocker if you even do it, trigger it even one time as a 2/4 creature with reach for 2 mana. So quite nice. And then, oh, Deadly Cover-Up. What does this do? The art's also pretty interesting too. Kind of looks like some kind of dark anime style. So as an additional cost to cast a spell, you may collect Evidence 6. So that'd be probably a green-black deck, I imagine. Destroy all creatures? Okay. If evidence was collected, exile a card from the opponent's graveyard, then search its owner's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with that name and exile them. That player shuffles and draws a card for each card exiled from their hand this way. That's interesting. So, if your opponent is playing more than one copy of an uncommon or a rare creature, then this could end up being pretty amazing to go ahead and find other copies of a really strong card and have access to, you know, I guess, I don't know, like that player shuffles and draws a card for each card exiled from their hand this way. So if we take something from their hand, then they get to draw a card for it. So, but that may not come up all that much, though. It's more likely you find something in their library at that point. Interesting. I'm not sure if I would first pick this. It is a board wipe, which does have merit against the big token decks and all the big bombs that can come out that we dealt with, like the Rakdos. I was kicking our ass. Absolving Lamassu. 4/3 flying. When it enters the battlefield, all suspected creatures are no longer suspected. And then when it dies, gain 3 life. Okay, so there might be triggers based on suspecting and unsuspecting creatures that this can go well with, as well as making it more difficult for the red-black Menace suspect type decks to get in there with Menace all the time. So this might help out against the hyper aggro decks. If nothing else, it's a good sideboard card against that. Extract a Confession. You can collect Evidence 6. Each opponent sacrifices a creature, and then if evidence is collected, instead they sacrifice a creature with the greatest power. So they would have to sacrifice their best creature if you, in the late game, collect the evidence on them and get the confession out, make them cough it up, and you get the confession, and I guess if they cough up the confession with the collect evidence 6, then they just get executed or something. I guess that's what it kind of infers. But yeah, that seems like a decent removal spell. It also gets around ward, because if a creature has ward, then a sacrifice-based effect where the opponent is forced to sacrifice them does not trigger the ward cost. So if a creature is face down, this would actually not trigger the ward cost to prevent this from getting in there. So it's kind of interesting. Draw a card, investigate. So this is a simple draw card effect for the blue-white detective deck. And I think it'd go well in other decks as well, but investigating is really ideal with the detective deck and the clue token generation. Might also be able to be good in blue-red for generating tokens as well for the artifact synergies, so that could also be a consideration. Fate Flight Flash is a combat trick that gives hexproof. Interesting. This is actually pretty decent because it has flash. To give hexproof, and give it flying could be really awesome if you have like if you have like a blue-white deck and then you have a white creature with lifelink. I think that this could work incredibly well to give the lifelinking creature the ability to fly over the top and then keep on attacking. So pretty awesome. Flying, Gryph-Knot Tracker, you get flying, and when it enters the battlefield, exile up to 2 cards from a single graveyard. It could be a good sideboard option if you are up against green-black and you're in any white color deck. So green-black wanting to do stuff with their graveyard, I think the Tracker is a good sideboard option to get rid of cards from their graveyard. But not a main deckable card in my opinion. It's not powerful enough otherwise. Alright, so Vengeful Creeper, interesting disguise for 6 mana, which is kind of expensive. When it's turned face up, destroy target artifact or enchantment an creature or an opponent controls. So this would be interesting. There was that +1/+1 pump the team enchantment that we went up against, and against the red-white deck. So this could destroy strong enchantments like that in this format. It could destroy clue tokens as well. And I'm sure there's some artifact tokens that are creatures that you can kill as well with this. Maybe this is also more of a sideboard option. Maybe not a main deckable card because the disguise cost is just too much for me. You have to invest 5 mana on turn 5, then 6 mana on turn 6 at the earliest to get the extra value in the late game for this. So it would kind of mess up your curve if you have any other late game finishers in your deck. So good sideboard option, but I would not like main deck it. I would probably take it on the wheel if I can get it to be a sideboard card. And then when this Loxodon Eavesdropper enters the battlefield, investigate. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, it gets a +1/+1 and gains vigilance until end of turn. So I assume this is for green-blue, because blue has most of the draw another card type spells in them and synergies. So yeah, this is probably a green-blue card. Not sure if I'm that big of a fan of it. I mean, it hasn't entered the battlefield effect, but unless you can get it into the battlefield again, maybe there's some blue cards that can return it to your hand so you can investigate again. But yeah, I mean, it's not like I wouldn't main deck it, and I'm not sure if I'd ever play green-blue in this set, so I'd probably do Extract a Confession. Seems like a really strong card. They sacrifice and it gets around lots of things like Indestructible, Hexproof, Ward. All that stuff doesn't matter when they are forced to sacrifice it. It gets around all those defensive features, so it's great removal in that aspect. It's only sorcery speed, but you know what? For 2 mana, destroying a big creature is always worth it. And then Feyflight would maybe be my second choice, oddly enough. It has good value to protect a creature, and then you can fly over the top of a strong creature and just keep on attacking. So Deadly Cover-Up is interesting, but I don't know. It seems kind of like this is something you would use if you're losing the game, but not a kind of board wipe you'd use if you're in a good position and you're just trying to trade off, get value out of your creatures before doing the board wipe, like if you have a bunch of 1/1s on the field buying time. So yeah, I think that's what I'd go with that pack. And then final pack, looking through these cards here, another Doorkeeper Thrall, like we said before. If you have enter the battlefield effects with negative implications there with what ability is going to trigger, like things are negative for you and good for your opponent, then I think this is a main deckable card. If you have like that 6/2 black rare that gives the opponent tokens for free, you get the Doorkeeper Thrall out first, earlier in the curve. Then you get the 6/2 out. The downside does not trigger, and you have a 6/2 menace creature that can attack in on turn 4, and your opponent may not have enough creatures to attempt blocking it. So that's where I see the value, is maybe in a black-white deck like that, where you get lots of value. Or you prevent your opponent from getting value, I would say. So Wrench. That's a simple but effective title. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, has vigilance, and you can tap down creatures with it. So it's kind of interesting. You can put this on like your 1/1 token or just a basic 1/1 creature, and then they can tap down other huge creatures. And then in a pinch, you can kind of cycle it for 2 mana to draw a card later on. So, I mean, I can dig it. You know, if you put this on a 1/1 creature, or even like an 0/1 creature or an 0/4 wall or whatever it was, this can be pretty good to just tap down a huge threat and prevent them from being able to attack on their turn, which can be really good against the red-white aggro decks that get value when the creature actually is able to attack and trigger an ability. So, Sanitation Automaton enters the battlefield, Surveil 1. I mean, I guess it's versatile because of the colorless mana, but I mean, if it created a clue token instead, I think this would be great in some decks, but Surveil 1 is just kind of eh. So unless you're in a dedicated artifact deck, this might not be worth your trouble. So it is what it is. There's going to be some cards like that that are just kind of mid. Just like the Alley Assassin, it's more mid, but it could go well with the Doorkeeper Thrall deck if it prevents it from coming into the battlefield tapped. I don't know how the trigger works with that, if the Doorkeeper Thrall would prevent that from entering in tapped, but I can test it out one of these days, maybe. I don't know. If I'm wrong and it doesn't do that, then hey, you know, it is what it is. Absolving Masu, we saw that in one of the previous things. It's kind of a more situational type synergy card. Could be good against, again, like red-black, suspect-based decks. Things like that, I imagine. Goblin Maskmaker, attacks, face down, spells to cast this turn. Okay, so that's good in the face down type deck. That would have been decent in our deck with more face down card value. So that's a pretty good 1-drop in my opinion for the curve especially. Shock, great efficient removal, but I think Extracted Confession is just outright better for removal. So Doorkeeper Thrall would be a fun build around, but it wouldn't be guaranteed to work. You'd have to rely on the cards that you get after it. So you're really taking a gamble by first picking this. I think that I would take either the Wrench or the Confession for efficient ways to remove, you know, creatures either permanently, like with this one, or Wrench can go ahead and tempo out the opponent with a small creature using it. And then Shock would be awesome too. So Wrench or Shock wheeling here would be great. Maskmaker would also be great too if we were in a red-black deck with lots of face-down cards. So that will be it for today. I thank everyone for watching and being very patient with me, especially with the lack of Magic the Gathering related uploads for quite a long while, as well as like any RPGs or interesting games coming out. But with my new computer, I'm hoping that it won't crash again while I'm trying to record some fun gameplay footage for everybody, and obviously giving you a glimpse of what is to come with this new Murders at Karlov set. And hopefully my future decks don't get quite as murdered in these drafts as it did this time around. I should have gone 1-2, but by the default opponent, like defaulting to losing, we really should have been 1-2, but we ended up 2-1 by a pure stroke of luck. I guess our assassination attempt that was like a Hail Mary worked in this Murders at Karlov, so we got away with one there. But thank everyone for watching, and enjoy the set and enjoy the content coming soon. And I will see you all next time, and probably after the Super Bowl this Sunday. So have a great weekend for the Super Bowl, and as always, take care.